last tip for read and write learners. Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to revise. I've had a lot of emails from people asking me how I revise and how they should be revising. So I thought I would share with you what I like to do. But before I do that, I thought we could talk about what kind of learners we are. So there are 4 types of learners. The first kind of learner is an auditory learner. These are the type of people that remember information best when it's said to them rather than if they read it. 5 tips if you're an auditory learner. Tip number 1 is make sure when you go to your lecture you listen to what the lecturer is saying rather than taking notes and copying down the slides. After attending the lecture, go back home, listen to the lecture again and then write your notes. This way you'll already have some kind of knowledge and you'll be updating it. Summarise and condense your notes and then read them back aloud to yourself, or record yourself and listen back to it. That will ensure that you haven't missed any information and that you understand exactly what you're saying. This is one of my favourites, is make up a rhyme or a story or acronyms for something that you can't remember. This really helps put everything in order and link things together. And 5, another one of my favourites is group study. I know a lot of people really don't like to study in groups. It is a bit scary if you don't think you know that much. But honestly, if you're studying in a group, it really helps. Teaching someone something that you've just learned is proven to be a great revision technique. You can make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, and the mistakes you make, you're definitely going to remember in the exam. The next type of learner is a visual learner. These type of people take in information best if they're in the form of pictures or diagrams or in bold colours. The 5 tips I would give for these kind of learners: make mind maps. I know we've learnt the concept of mind maps since we were young and there's a reason for that. They are so useful. Having everything you know on one page, different topics in different colours, in different areas of the page, will really help you remember those crucial facts when you're in your exam. Even if you don't understand it, at least you'll know exactly where it was written and all the things that were connected to it. Another thing I would recommend is flashcards. Even though these are written out, by writing things out yourself, having the topic or the question on one side and then the information on the other side, which can include colour-coded words, diagrams, pictures, things like that, it's a really good way to revise and you can do it on the go. Tip number 3 is write your notes so they're clear to you. So you could colour-code your notes, which I find really helpful, or you could turn big blocks of writing into diagrams or bullet points or flowcharts. Visual learners, this is a really good way to avoid big chunks of writing, which usually put us off when it comes to revising. Tip number 4 is one of my favourites and I use it all the time, is watch videos, whether it's on YouTube or a website like Khan Academy or something like that. I'll give you an example. I've been learning about embryology lately and reading about how it works just does not make sense to me. So I came across a YouTube video where the teacher used Play-Doh to show how embryology works, and now I can visualize it in my head and I could probably explain it to you. So definitely videos are a great resource. And tip number 5 again is group study. Working in a group is so great for visual learners as well as auditory learners. Use whiteboards, use models, use diagrams, just explain things to each other. It is the best way of learning in my opinion. Next we have kinesthetic learners. I hope I said that right, but these are people that learn by actually touching and physically doing something in order to understand and learn. So my first tip for kinesthetic learners would be use models, especially when it comes to things like anatomy or tooth morphology or even physiology. Just to see how something works, you need to have it in front of you. If your lecturer likes to tell you about how stuff works without kind of showing you in either diagrams or videos or with a model, ask them if they can show you in that way. Draw out things by hand. You might have a diagram in front of you or a piece of writing in front of you, and not everything can be acted out or physically done, obviously. So when it comes to stuff like that, really draw out what you can make sense of and then get it checked by someone else. Now this one isn't something that's physical, it does require reading and writing unfortunately. Tip number 4 is make up your own questions and then make up answers to go with it, and obviously make sure that they're correct. So when you have a question that comes up in your exam, you can think back to when you were studying that subject and when you wrote your own questions and answers out and your thought process behind it, and that will hopefully help you answer any question. Gather up a bunch of people who would be interested in trying a different revision technique, and hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from role playing stuff out. For example, I remember in 6th form, year 12 or something, we were learning about action potentials, and I remember I was like a sodium channel or something, and even though it was so stupid at the time, now looking back at it, I still remember what I was and what other people were acting as, and it just all made sense in my head later on. I did not appreciate it at the time, it was just embarrassing, but I'm sure it did help me when it came to my exams. The last type of learner is a read and write learner. They like to learn in a traditional way. Most of us want to believe that we are read and write learners just because that's the way we've been taught to learn, but it's not always the case. I spent most of my school life trying to learn things by reading and writing them out again and again. It does work sometimes, but sometimes nothing goes in. So if you've tried that technique of reading and writing things again and again and it hasn't helped you, then you're probably not a read and write learner. Rewrite your notes again and again until the information is consolidated into your long-term memory. If it helps you learn, then definitely analyse all the visual content or the spoken content. Make pictures and diagrams into words, maybe by annotating them or bullet pointing things or making a flowchart or even writing it into a paragraph. Ask your lecturers for handouts or reading materials or any books that they would suggest. I'm sure they'd be really happy to point you in the right direction. Tip number 4 probably would apply to all kind of learners because unfortunately our exams are written. This is to do past papers if you have some. If you don't have some, like I mentioned before, you can make up your own questions and your own answers. Past papers really give you an idea of how exams will be structured and how the questions will be written. So if you do have access to some of those, definitely do past papers. And last tip for read and write learners is try not to get carried away. Make sure you know how to eliminate unnecessary small print information from the things that are important, because if your notes have everything that has ever been mentioned to you, chances are you're not going to remember most of it and you're probably going to end up remembering things that aren't as important. So make sure your notes are clear and concise and easy to read. Obviously not everyone learns in the same way. If you want to know what kind of learner you are, then take the quiz. I'm going to link it down below. I hope that was helpful and answered all your questions. I will be making another video about how I like to revise a month before the exam. Hopefully if I get time I'll make one about what I do a week before an exam, and if you have any revision tips you'd like to share them, please do. Let me know if you found this video helpful, let me know if you didn't find it helpful. I hope exam period isn't too stressful for you guys,